how's it going? It's Janie over here at JaniesSweets. Welcome back to another Friday Fixes episode where you ask me cake questions and I do my best to answer them for you. Today's episode is going to talk about how do you deal with negative feedback, negative comments, and criticism in your cake business. A friend of mine owns a restaurant, and a couple of weeks ago he came to me and said, gosh Janie, how do you deal with the negativity? How do you deal with people criticizing your work? Not necessarily because something is wrong with it, but because they just want to find something to complain about, or bashing you over social media for something that wasn't your fault, etc., etc. How do you go about dealing with them? So I thought about it, and honestly, I broke it down to a couple of things, and here they are. So first of all, let's talk about why you get so emotional when people talk badly of your work. When you create something and it's your pride and joy, when someone says something negatively about it, you tend to take it very, very personal. So the first thing that I would say is assess whether there is any truth to what they're saying and whether they're criticizing you, being brutally honest, or just talking smack. And if it is there's no truth to what they're saying and they're just talking smack, delete, block, bye-bye. Now, if there is truth to what they're saying, and if this is a genuine criticism, that doesn't take the sting out of the initial reaction that you're going to get. If at all possible, do not personally answer these comments. Okay, so that's the first tip I have for you. The reason why there is customer service and the CEO and the people running the business are not answering the calls, the negative calls, is because if you created something, you're overprotective of it, right? So if you can have somebody with a fresh set of eyes answer, there's no emotions attached to it. What I tend to do is whenever I get like a negative feedback, I always run it by my best friend and I'm like, can you believe this is what that person said? And then she'll be like, well, this is what I would say, this is how I would answer. So that's the number one thing. Run it by somebody else or have somebody else answer them for you, so that way you remove your personal attachment to the project. The next thing is not to argue back and forth. For example, if they're like, your cake is too sweet, instead of going, well, other people don't find it sweet, so I don't know what you're talking about. And then they're gonna come back and say, well, I found it sweet, so I'm telling you that your cakes are too sweet. And then you're gonna go back to them and they're gonna come back to you, and then before you know it, it becomes nasty. Do not go back and forth. If you are going to answer your customer, just apologize for whatever the mistake is or whatever it is, and then tell them, thank you for the feedback. I will work on improving blah 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 based on your feedback. Okay, it's one and done, and you're done with them. They're out of your hair and you can move on with your life. The next thing that I always do is I do not answer right away. Okay, because your first reaction is to snap. Your first reaction is to say, you don't know what you're talking about, this is the best thing that ever lived, this is the best invention since sliced bread. Okay, like my cakes are awesome, when in reality maybe it's not. Okay, so what you want to do is whatever message you want to tell them, type it up, leave it there. The next day come back and read it. I guarantee you're gonna find a lot of attitude in there that doesn't need to be in there. Listen, I am Caribbean and I lived in New Jersey for half of my life, so I have attitude for days. So I always type up my answers before I send it out to the person so that it doesn't come off mean. And half the time, once you've slept on it, you realize that there was probably some truth to what they were saying. Okay, now that we've talked about what to do if you find that the comment is more of a criticism, they're just giving you feedback, these are the things that I would like for you to do. However, if you find that someone is just being mean-spirited, they're not really giving you a criticism, they're not trying, to tell you to improve something, they're just talking smack, I would suggest that if you have to answer them, to answer with humor. There is nothing better than clapping back in a humorous way. But you have to be able to do it right. Like, you have to be witty with it. Like, it has to be funny. Because if not, then it just womp womp, you know, like a joke that kind of just goes over their head, right? So what I like to do is answer with humor, or don't answer at all. With that being said, you do not want to take abuse, okay? Abuse that I'm talking about is foul language, cursing, yelling. Now, up to this point, I was talking about people who, you know, bash you on social media, or, you know, write you or email you, right? However, if it's somebody on the phone, you know, cursing you out over something, you don't have to take abuse. You can hang up and tell them, listen, I understand that you're upset, or I'm listening to what you're saying. However, when you're calm, we can have a conversation, and you can hang up the phone. Listen, nobody's gonna kill you. Nobody's gonna put you in jail for hanging up on somebody who's being rude and mean to you, okay? Like, disrespect is not gonna fly. You don't have to tolerate it, and you should not tolerate it. So bullying, calling you names, cursing you out, all these types of stuff are a no-fly zone. Delete, block, bye-bye. If I can leave you with anything from this video, do not take anything personally, okay? The people who are criticizing you are criticizing a product. They're not criticizing you per se, okay? The biggest, baddest baker that you can think of have people criticizing their works, have people telling them that their stuff are not good, okay? So the best thing that you need to do is to understand that, first of all, they're not criticizing you, the person, but rather the work itself. Once you do that, I think it starts getting easier, you know, dealing with the criticism and dealing with the negativity, because you distance yourself from your product. So with all of that being said, I hope that this video was helpful to you. It gave you a couple of tips on things maybe you didn't think about, and also it puts into perspective what actually is happening when somebody is criticizing your work or your business. Just don't take it personal. Understand that they don't know you personally, they know your work. So I hope you guys found this video useful, and you give it a thumbs up if you did. Share it with your friends and family. And as always, you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. All my socials are @JaniesSweets. I love you. I'll talk to you next time.